Good morning. This is Steve Stefanides with the Coastal Breeze News, and I have the privilege to sit here with Bonita. And how do you say your last name? Schwan?
Schwan.
Schwan.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bonita Schwan, running for City Council. First time out of the box here, okay, on Marco, as a resident. And she's going to answer some questions today for us and see how she feels about different subject matter. Okay?
Okay.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right? Okay. All right, here we go. All right. Why don't you give about a 2-minute introduction about who you are so that people understand? You probably think you've met everybody on Marco right now because you really stay busy out there campaigning. But give us about a 2-minute overview of who you are.
Absolutely. Thanks for your time.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely. So my name is Bonita Schwan, and I'm a full-time resident here in Marco Island, of course. So I'm going to give you a little bit of my background, where I came from, my degrees, etc. So I actually was born in the state of Iowa, a small rural town called Rock Rapids, Iowa, population about 2,000 people. From there, I did graduate Central Line High School, and I went my first 2 years of undergrad at the University of Iowa. It was first year Hayden Fry was there for the Iowa Hawkeyes is when it was. I did, though, transfer then to the University of Texas in Austin. I was an accounting major, and at the time, the University of Texas was rated #1 in the country for their accounting program. And it was what I wanted to get my degree in and specialize. And actually, when I graduated from the University of Texas, there were 439 accounting majors graduating with me, and I ranked number 16 out of the 439. So I come with a really strong background, and I worked a few different places. I did work at Pete Marwick for a little stint in the tax department and things like that, too. But from there, I went to law school. I went to law school at Drake University, which is in Des Moines, Iowa. And after law school, I worked for Governor Terry Branstad, who was a very popular governor in the state of Iowa. And what I did for him, I oversaw 5 state of Iowa departments: the Department of Revenue and Finance, the Department of Health, Department of Human Services, Department of Human Rights, and the Department of Civil Rights. After working for Governor Branstad, advising him on budget and policy in those 5 departments, I then went into the private practice of law, where I specialized in legislation and administrative rules for several national clients and Iowa clients. It was a variety of all different areas of law. After that, I did go to the Peace Corps, though, also. I took a break from my practice of law, and I was in the U.S. Peace Corps serving in Western Samoa. And so that's kind of my professional background. I have done a lot of volunteer work everywhere I've been, in addition to the Peace Corps. In the state of Iowa, I was on several boards and commissions, including Big Brothers Big Sisters of Iowa. In the state of South Dakota, I was on numerous boards and commissions, also most notably Make-A-Wish of South Dakota. I was the board chairperson, and our chapter was awarded by the National Make-A-Wish when I was the board chairperson, outstanding chapter, which we worked really hard, and all because of the caring people of South Dakota, like the caring people here in Florida and Marco Island. A little bit more background. It's important to me. I'm very active in the community here. I'm involved with 5 different organizations in Marco Island. I'm a volunteer at the Marco Island Historical Museum, which just this past spring I received a President's Award for my service there. I'm also a volunteer at the Marco Island Chamber of Commerce. I'm also on the board of directors of the Newcomers of Marco Island. I'm the membership chair. I'm also a member of the Women's Club of Marco Island. And I'm also on the board of directors of the Cozumel Building HOA. And this is actually the 4th HOA that I've been involved with in various places that I've lived, so I'm very familiar. And we do have a lot of condos here, so I can be very helpful in the council in that regard too.
Okay.
I could go on forever, but
yeah, I know you could.
Okay, no. So, thank you for your patience.
Okay, not a problem. Anyhow, what in your opinion are the top 3 issues, okay, that are really facing residents in the next 4 years, and how would you approach them?
Okay. Yes, the top three issues. The number one issue that we all have to be concerned about, and we all are affected every day by, is inflation. Because right now, with what's going on with the national inflation, it's also pressuring our city budgets to a great extent. And that has to be a concern. And I have met with all the department heads in this regard, and the city manager and Casey, because our budgets are very, very tight, and that has to be a priority, looking at our budgets and working as a team to see what we can do about that. And having my law degree, but also particularly my accounting degree, and having oversaw very large budgets for the state of Iowa, I think I can be helpful in that regard. Second one, and I've made this a priority in my campaign, is water quality. Everybody who lives on Marco Island wants us to have clean, quality water, not just in all of our bodies of water. And this is a priority in my campaign, that in green spaces. So in regards to quality water, I've called for immediate testing, going back to monthly testing, because in December of 2023, the current council discontinued the monthly testing. And I think we need to find out what the problem is, where we're at with the problem on a monthly basis, so that we can address it. I've actually been selected as one of 3 water quality advocates during this campaign, along with 2 other city council candidates. And this was selected by the Wright Club of South Collier County. So in addition to the immediate testing, we have to look at the funding. We have to use common sense, and we have to have good return on investment for whatever monies we are able to direct towards water. And a key to that, I feel, is that we would have a grant writer looking at this. We currently do not have a grant writer for our city. I confirmed that with the city manager's office. And I think we could get such a good return on investment if we had a very qualified grant writer. And looking at our matrix, again, also, I think is very, very important. So the third one then would be protecting our green spaces. I'm a big supporter of the park system, etc. But particularly in Veterans Community Park, and I've spoken to the city manager about this too, I would like there to be more shade so we can use that park more than we're utilizing it now. Also, though, for the beautification, the trees projects, I'm really glad that they did include in the city budget the $30,000 for the Tree USA project, but also we have the 10,000 trees project. So I'll be supporting those also.
Okay. How would you propose the city adjust the budgeting process that it presently uses, given the fact that a lot of the residents are not present during that time? There's no discussion. Many of the residents, not all, but many of the residents are not here. Begins in May, as you well know. A lot of people leave in May. You're on the board at your condo association, and you probably see a lot of them scoot out to go see grandchildren and one thing or another. How could we adjust the budgeting process and make it have more of the residential input?
Well, I think one thing that would be helpful is people have to engage themselves and contact their city councilors about concerns. I know when I worked for the state of Iowa, almost 50% of my time was spent replying to constituents and really answering their questions and getting them involved. So I would really encourage you, if you have one or more city councilors that you could reach out to, and it's the responsibility of each of us. Hopefully I will be as service to one of your city councilors to respond to you and engage with you. In regards to the calendar aspect, is that kind of what you're thinking?
Well, the only way you can have citizen involvement if citizens are here.
Right, I understand that. Well, and what also happens is, they don't have to be full-time residents, but particularly want our full-time residents to be engaged with the city council. So, and I guess that's something that we need to open up and look and figure out what we can do about that.
Okay. How do you propose the city? That's the same question again. Are the city advisory committees effective as they are designed? And what are your suggestions if you would even consider any changes?
Well, I think, First of all, we're so thankful to all the volunteers who serve on those advisory committees, because basically when you look at all of Marco Island, we have so many organizations that step up and provide funding for things. And all these volunteers who are, like myself, I'm involved in 5 different things on the island. We are so thankful of all of you out there and everybody who's stepping up to volunteer for these committees. They're very important. But in meeting with I've met with, for example, the Waterways Committee and the Parks Committee and things. They're not budgeted very much money at all. They have like a $10,000 budget. So maybe that's something we need to decide, appropriate funding for these committees, and if they should have more funding, etc. So I would like to look at that.
Okay. How can the city more effectively communicate with its residents?
Well, there's been a few ideas that have been floated, and one would be, we have the very popular farmers market starting again on November 13 at Veterans Community Park. Make city councilors available at the farmer market at a stand where you can come up and you can talk with your city councilor. I think that would be one great way to do it. And there's several other functions that take place in the Veterans Community Park too. We just need to put ourselves out there. What I personally do, since I started my campaign, I've been doing coffee with the candidate at Ori's Tuesday mornings from 9 until 10. And I'm on a little bit of break because Ori's on a family vacation, a well-deserved one, which is great. So my next one will be actually on October 1st, 9 to 10 at Ori's Bakery and Cafe. That way I'm meeting with people every week, and I'm doing a lot of other meetings, all kinds of different meetings too, but I want to make sure that citizens of Marco Island can come down there quite easily and meet with me and talk to me about whatever they want to talk about. We can talk about my campaign, my initiatives, or you can just bring concerns in and you can tell me about them, and that would be great. So, and it's a wonderful place to meet.
Code enforcement has been a major issue on the island with some residents. What could be done to make code enforcement more effective in its job?
Well, code enforcement is very, very important, and it has to be applied equally. We have to apply it equally, and if it's on the books, it should be applied. I'm not a fan of having things on the books that aren't being used. Then they shouldn't be on the books, and they have to be equal application. And because part of that is, too, the citizens, when you're getting your fines, you have to pay those fines. It's important. I'm not pointing to anyone in particular, but just in other cities that I've lived in, it's a revenue source too. And it's a responsibility. If you are not in compliance, you can go to the hearing, show up, and pay your fine. That's what I believe. Okay.
This next question it's 3 parts, so I'm going to give them to you one at a time, and you can expound on those. Okay. And the environment itself, on the island is an economic driver, for business and residents, one thing or another. As of September 2024, there's been some issues with the idea that not gopher tortoises, but the small turtle crawls, that Marco Island was shown as being the most disoriented, the numbers of disoriented crawls, was the highest in the county. What would you do, or what would you suggest to reverse that?
Well, I actually live right on South Beach. I live at Cape Marco, and I live on the lowest level of residences there. So I'm able to watch this, and it's because I know, in my building where I live, our manager makes sure we are being compliant. And, we do tests of everybody's lights off before the actual first day that it goes into effect. And he's out there that full first week making sure nobody's forgetting to turn off their lights. There's not many of us there right now. Currently in my building that houses 108 condominium units, there's only 12 units that are here right now. So, but in my condo building, and actually I was at the Cape Marco Board of Directors meeting yesterday, And there were 3 building managers there, and they're always working on compliance.
That's the master.
That's the master board. I serve on the Cozumel HOA board of directors. We have 6 buildings in the Cape Marco. But when I look down the beach, because my lights, I always turn them all off at 8:30, and I put the blinds down, but I have a few window sliders that don't have them, so I'm just in the dark there, which is fine. But you can look, and I'm not seeing a lot of places out of compliance when I'm looking. I understand why you're saying that, but
mind you, it's not my opinion. It's
right.
One of the questions.
And I know I looked at the counting numbers from 2023, and there were record hatchings and things like that. So, and it's something that's very interesting because I live right there on the beach, as to when they find a new nest and they're out doing all the measuring for it, and I really see people being so mindful of it. So hopefully we are doing a good job.
Okay. The next one, would you endorse the city buying more, the city itself, by creating a fund, to buy more conservation land on the island?
Well, right now, given the concerns about inflation, and our budgets are so tight and we don't know what's going to happen moving forward with inflation. So right now I would not recommend that. I'm a strong fiscal conservative. I have lifelong fiscal conservative, and I totally believe in conservation. I'm an advocate of it, but now is not the time to be setting money right now to a new fund.
Okay. Water quality. You touched on it a little bit earlier. The city changed under this council, went to quarterly testing versus monthly testing. You touched on this, and you basically were in favor of moving back to the monthly testing. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
So that'd be something that you would propose in the future?
I would do that immediately, because we need the facts and the data to figure out what the problem is and move forward from there. What I've actually been doing is I've been meeting with everybody I can about this issue to educate myself on this issue. It's a very complex, complicated issue. So I went over to the Water and Sewer Department and met with Jeff and then Jason over there. Spent an afternoon there and have had follow-ups with them also. I also have been endorsed by 2 members of the Waterways Advisory Committee, the Vice President, Martin Winters, and then also I've met with Eugene several times. Also, I am being supported by Dan High, who's also on that Waterways Committee. And I've had several conversations and continue to have a lot of dialogue and discussions with David Crane about this issue too. But there's more people to meet. There's more I have to learn. But that's a priority of mine. That is my big priority of my campaign, is water quality.
Okay. Following that same gist, should the bacterial levels rise, and occasionally they do for one reason or another, especially after heavy rains and that, should those levels rise to an unhealthy condition, should residents be notified of that to prevent any possible exposure?
Well, I know that there was some notices that went out in some of the water bill or something like that, a notice in that regard. But, I think what's going on right now, in my opinion, and based on all these experts that I've been talking to in this field, is that with the sediment, you're talking about the sediment, and particularly this time of year, it's more challenging. That's been an issue that's been in the works since the Mackles created all these canals, and they were built to sell homes. But they did put, in regards to the canals, so I work at the Historical Museum. I'm a volunteer there. Technically, actually, I don't work there, just volunteer there. But in some of the old EPA documents that were going back and forth, they did note in there for the canals, as they went towards the ends with them, they wanted them to become more shallow. So I think we have to look at the depths, that we have to do the study of the depths of the various canals, and then also landmark for example, it gets deeper, when it's going that direction. So we need to get a grasp on the depths of the canals too, I think.
Are you mixing up flushing with depth?
Oh, sorry. The interconnects are, I didn't mean to misstate that. Yeah, the interconnects have been very, I know. Sorry. Thank you for correcting me. So the interconnects are very important, and they too have been successfully completed. So, there's a few more, but it's very expensive. And this goes back to cost effectiveness. We need to have a return on investment. We're going to need some help from the state and the federal government. And that's why it'd be helpful to get a grant writer and, work with the matrix and things too.
Okay. With the explosion of building that has gone on, concern with some residents is some of the residential buildings being built today are out of character for what Marco Island used to be. Of course, everything changes as time goes on. Would you be in favor of some kind of architectural review board, looking at the designs of buildings so they don't look like a commercial structure in the middle of a residential neighborhood?
I really don't want to create any more additional layers of government. I believe in limited government. And, we do have the Planning Commission and we have safeguards in place. And I just think it's not the time to create any additional layers of government. So I understand it. I think, though, just going back to the Mackles and their original development plans and things like that, they wanted this to always be a growing community, to be a growing community. And so I do feel it's in line with being the growing community that the Mackles were looking at.
Okay, all right. We've run through all of the questions we had for you that came in and were sifted through by the editorial board. Anyhow, what about you could speak to the camera for about 2 minutes. All right, it's easy to go longer, but okay. I'll knock you out of there now. Okay. Anyhow, just talk. Tell people.
I'm going to quit with 2 minutes. I'm going to get knocked out by you.
No,
okay.
No.
Okay. Well, I think that to say my last few minutes here, I'm a fiscal conservative. I believe in fiscal conservative policies and limited government. And I believe in this beautiful island. When I moved here, and this is my home now, I chose this to be my next home because I just fell in love with the water and love with the people and the lifestyle here. I really enjoyed it. But also, I so enjoy being involved with all 5 of these organizations that I'm involved with. Because when you volunteer, you become more of the community and you can help the community. And I want to tell you why I decided to run for city council. And then I think it's 2 minutes. Okay. The reason I decided to run for city council was when I read in the paper that there were going to be 4 vacancies and a 5th appointment on a 7-member body. And that greatly concerned me, how the city council could change in directions for our beautiful, beautiful home of Marco Island. Because I did not come here to be a politician. I'm not a business owner. I'm not a realtor. I'm just a person who chose this to be her next home. And like anybody in Marco Island, when you have a skill set and there's a volunteer need, you step up and you volunteer. So that is why I'm running. Because I thought with my professional experience and with my degrees, I could be helpful to the residents of Marco Island for a long-term vision. And that's why our water is important. That's why our green spaces are important. So I would humbly ask you to vote for me on November 5. And if you want to learn more, go to votebonita.org.
Hey, that did really well. Keeping it within there. Yeah. Anyhow, just heard from Bonita Schwan here today for running for city council, as she said. And we would appreciate it if you continue to watch the other. Now I think this makes the 4th. You are the 4th candidate.
Okay.
We've had an opportunity to speak with and let you speak directly to the people. And we've got 2 more to do, and we hope that you'll continue to tune in and see the last 2. And we appreciate your time here, Bonita.
Thank you for your time. Pleasure meeting you.
Pleasure meeting you.